Welcome to the CE Pro Podcast. I'm Executive Editor Arlen Schweiger. How often are you getting requests to install a TV over a client's fireplace? Probably a lot. And that makes sense because the fireplace is the focal point of a living room or great room. In this week's podcast episode, MantelMount CEO Lee Mark discusses with CE Pro editor Jason Knott how to calculate the proper viewing distance and the proper height of a TV, how to safely install a TV over the fireplace, and some other good tips to boost video sales. As always, be sure to subscribe to CE Pro's YouTube channel and hit that like button on our videos, or subscribe to the CE Pro podcast on Apple and Spotify and leave a review.
Hi, Jason Knott with CE Pro, and we are talking today about mounting televisions, and more specifically, the misconception that's out there that TVs over fireplaces is some sort of thing that's not advisable or a safety hazard or a concern in some way, shape, or form. And here to dispel all those myths with me is Lee Mark, CEO of MantelMount. Hi, Lee.
Hey, Jason, nice to see you.
Thanks for joining me today. So first, before we jump into some of the specifics, tell us a bit about MantelMount and some of the innovative product lines that you have both on the manual and motorized side.
Sure. Well, in short, MantelMount was created to solve a problem. And it's the problems that are inherently involved in needing to put a TV high on the wall, like over a fireplace. These days, you've got fireplace mantles pushing 4.5 to 5 feet on average. You've got, 60 to 80-inch TVs who have come down in price considerably. And you have a lot of homes, more modern homes being built with an open concept. So they've got this open kitchen wall to the family room. One wall is usually their backyard. And really the only place to put your TV is over a fireplace. So the problem with that is when you've got this 5-foot-tall fireplace and this 70-inch TV, based on where most people put their sofa, it feels like you're sitting in the front row of a movie theater. And the problems associated with that can be eye strain, chronic neck pain, chronic back pain, and you're also going to degrade the quality of the TV. So many people spend all this money getting this clear, beautiful picture, and then they watch it at an angle where that picture quality degrades. So MantelMount was designed to solve all of those problems. And the way that it does it is it basically allows, I'm going to actually share my screen with you right now. So MantelMount was designed to allow anyone to easily pull their TV down off the wall to eye level and swivel it left or right. It could be your grandmother, it could be your children. It's got hydraulics in it. It's got gas springs, very similar to what you might find in the back of a high-end car in the hatchback. So it could make a 100-pound TV feel feather light when you're lifting it up or pulling it back down. You can bring it down to eye level, swivel it left or right, push it back up against the wall where it looks great when you're done.
Right, and the video you just showed there showed the manual operation, but you also have motorized units.
Yes, we have our flagship product is our MantelMount MM860. But basically, the mount goes above your fireplace. You push you turn your TV on, and the act of turning your TV on will automatically drop the TV down to eye level and swivel it to your favorite preset position. It works with all the top home automation systems, so it can be integrated into Crestron, Control4, Elan. Forgive me for forgetting the 3 or 4 others by name. As you see on the screen there, it's got a heat sensor in the arm, so it will automatically detect if the TV is down and the fireplace is running. It'll automatically detect that the fireplace is too hot, and it'll push your TV automatically back up to eye level. Another cool thing about this product, by the way, is that I'm gonna pull something else up here. It's got an onboard computer. This is its onboard computer. It'll plug into Ethernet, but a really great thing about it is you don't have to have home automation to have some of the effects of home automation. In another picture here, I'll show you, there's another view of that module. And the way that this works is you plug this module into the wall, you plug your TV into the module, And when you turn your TV on, the module or the brains of this mount detects that the power has switched, and it automatically pulls your TV down to your favorite preset. And as soon as you turn the TV off, it detects the power drop, and it pushes the TV back up against the wall. This is a patented feature we're super, super proud of. But it's an amazing, amazing experience. People who have this mount love it. There was one story, I think it was maybe in an article, Jason, that your magazine wrote about a dealer who has an 860 in his showroom, a MantelMount MM860, and that dealer, instead of demonstrating it, we have a lot of luck with people putting these in their showroom. They just press the button, people watch it come down, and they have to have one. But this one dealer, he doesn't show it to anybody until he sits them down at a table to go over the quote of everything he talked about. And then he presses the button and to show them the quote on the computer. He has it connected to his computer, and then it comes down and swivels to eye level. And people go, whoa, wait a second, what is that? And as a result of doing that, he probably sells more than most people of that particular product. People just love it when they see it. But whether it's manual or automated, there's a price point for everybody, and they all kind of solve the same problem. Even the manual mounts, I'll put in this one last word. They have a handle that you use to pull them down, but that handle has rubber that's been specially treated. It doesn't get hot, but if it is in front of a fireplace, which that's running, which by the way, we don't recommend people pull the TV down and watch it with the fireplace running, although it's not always as dangerous as people think. I guess we'll talk about that in the myths. But it will turn red if it senses that the heat near your TV is 110 degrees. And it turns bright red, so that as a warning to you, like, hey, it's time to push your TV back up.
Great overview. So let's back up before we jump into the myths. One other thing, you touched on it briefly, which was how in many cases there's really kind of no other logical place for people to put their television or their giant TV than over the fireplace. But why is that such a logical place to put it? I mean, people sit in their homes, they have them often designed in their great rooms and even master suites where they're facing the fireplace. The fireplace is really a focal point in the room. People love to look at that mesmerizing fire. So it really kind of makes even more sense to have that television in that same focal point, don't you think?
Absolutely. You nailed it. It is, the fireplace is always the focal point in the room. The rooms are designed so that the sofas are facing the fireplace or the bed is facing the fireplace. And it's wonderful if you've got the fireplace on, but it's not always so great if you're going to put a TV over a fireplace and you don't use a product like MantelMount.
All right, let's talk about some of the myths. So you mentioned about the the first row, the movie theater effect. Is there some sort of proper viewing angle, or is it really a person by person what their comfort needs are, their distance from the screen? What is that ideal viewing height?
There's more than just height, but I'll answer your question about height. There's height, there's different distance, and then there's also angle, like a tilt angle, if you will, right? So generally, the best picture quality is going to come from watching your TV at eye level. So in theory, if you set your TV to the perfect height, your eyes would be parallel to roughly the center of your TV. And so that's going to vary based on the height of your couch and the height of people, if you were trying to be really exact, of the people watching TV. So you would want to come up with a measurement that says, where on the wall is the center of my TV based on where my eyes will be. That would be, in a perfect world, you didn't have a fireplace in the way and you could mount it just like that. To mount a TV at eye level, how high should it be? A TV should be roughly, like a 55-inch TV should be 61 inches, give or take, off the floor, right? To the center of the TV. So the center of the TV should be about 61 inches off the floor. For 65-inch TV, it should be about 65 inches off the floor. And for a 70-inch TV, it should be maybe 67 inches off the floor. But again, those are rough guidelines, just to go by. Really, you want to measure where your eyes are when you're sitting on your sofa. As far as distance, if you sit too close, you can have eye strain, or it's just too close to watch. You're not getting the whole picture. If you sit too far, you're not, you have all the downsides of sitting too far away, that you're not seeing the screen. So a good rule of thumb on that is to take the viewing, the good rule of thumb for the viewing distance is to take the size of your TV and divide it by 0.55. If anyone wants to write that down. Basically, so a 55-inch TV would be 100 inches away, which is you'd want to be about 100 inches away from your screen, which is about 8 feet away from the screen. For a 65-inch TV, it would be almost 10 feet away. But you simply take the diagonal distance, or the size of the TV, like a 70-inch TV, divide it by 0.55, and that tells you how many inches away you might want to be. The TV angle, the more directly you put the TV in front of your face and watch at eye level, the better it is to see the picture and avoid eye strain and neck pain. I guess if you were in a position, because you're not always in a perfect position where you had to tilt the TV upward, or where you were looking down at it, you certainly wouldn't want to be more than a 15-degree angle before it starts to get really bad. And if you were looking at the TV from the side where you couldn't swivel it, you wouldn't want to be at more than a 40-degree angle, because then it's just really hard to watch the TV. So those are, if you aren't putting it over the fireplace and you just have the luxury of putting it at the right height. And so I guess MantelMount, allows you to do that and still put it over the fireplace wall.
Yeah, and you make a great point, because so many installations that are being done by professional integrators are in great room scenarios where you're not going to necessarily have that quote unquote money seat, where all of the surround sound is calibrated for that particular sitting spot. There are going to be people at an off viewing angle, and so that's what makes a product like this, or that capability to be able to move the TV even more desirable, because it's just functional. It's the way people watch TV today, other than that Archie Bunker seat right in front of the TV. Beyond that, everybody else is sitting in Edith Bunker seat.
Yeah. One of the fun things about MantelMount has swivel, and some of our models have up to 60 degrees in either direction. In most cases, if you're over a mantle, there's not enough room for it to go 60 degrees, but some people put them on a post out on their patio, so then they can kind of wrap around the post. And other people put them at the edge of the wall so that they can kind of wrap around the edge of the wall to look in one direction or another. The motorized mount has preset positions. So if you have that Archie Bunker chair over to the right, you could have preset number 1 that brings the thing down and swivels it right over to that chair. And then if you've got, the sofa, you want to sit at center, that can be preset number 2. If you want to swivel it towards your kitchen, that can be preset number 3, along with how far down it'll come off the wall. So you might leave it a little higher, bring it down, but not all the way down, because that mount can come down 30 inches to swivel it towards your kitchen, but you might bring it lower for the people watching on the sofa.
So you mentioned the 55-inch TV just as your example, but TVs are just getting massive now. We've got 75-inch and even larger TVs. How big of a TV is really functional over a fireplace? How big can it be? Is it just as big as you want? And can MantelMount, can the mounts handle these super massive TVs?
Most MantelMounts can handle depending on which model you have, because some of the models handle bigger, heavier TVs, but most MantelMounts can handle a 70-inch TV pretty well. Once you start getting higher than 70-inch, then you want to go into our and our Pro Series, actually, our Pro Series mounts are the ones that handle the higher end, heavier TVs or bigger TVs. Some of it is a function of how big the room is. So if you have 6,000, 7,000 square foot house with super high ceilings and plenty of room to move your sofa way back, an 85-inch TV would be fine. The average kind of tract home, if you will, or call it 2,000 to 3,500 square feet. Those great rooms, usually people are putting their sofas, 10, 12 feet away from the wall. As far as how big, so some of that is a function, again, of the stuff that we said about really how far away from the wall do you need to be for the size of your TV. So someone should reverse engineer into, okay, I'm putting my sofa here. My eyes are going to be this far away from the wall. What's the right size TV for that? And I know I gave some guidelines, but if you type it into Google, you'll find plenty of articles. There's one on the MantelMount site too that can give you that information again. The other thing, there is a limitation in terms of how much height there is between the ceiling and the mantle. So if the height of your TV is equal to the height of the ceiling and your mantle, a mantle mount may not work, because the mantle mount needs to be a certain number of inches above your mantle just to be able to clear it as it comes down and off the wall. That number of inches is different, but to give you an idea, it might be around 7 inches. This is a page from our installation guide, determining wall placement. So I'm not going to walk you through it, but it gives you, there are some measurements you have to do in terms of installing a mantle mount. If you're putting it on wood studs, it's not that different from installing a regular, any other TV mount, a swivel mount or a tilt mount, other than that there's some measurements you have to do to figure out where exactly to put the wall plate. So we kind of walk people through those measurements. It's based on the depth of the mantle, where the brace is relative to the bottom of your TV, and where you want to put it on the wall. So you can see here, it says, I want the TV centered between the mantle and the ceiling, or I want the TV a specific distance above the mantle. We help you figure out, based on those things, whether you can do it and where exactly to put the wall plate.
And I would assume that also is dependent on whether the TV's got a sound bar adhered to the bottom of the TV, or if it's the sound bar or the audio is separate, either separates or the sound bar is on the mantle itself.
Absolutely. We do have instructions in our manuals for sound bars. So we tell you basically to do a measurement, which is the height of your TV, but then we tell you that that you have to adjust that measurement by the height of your sound bar. So yeah, a lot of people do attach the sound bar to the mantle mount. We have, our brackets are designed so that in many cases you could attach it right to the mantle mount. In other cases, we have a soundbar adapter that for larger, taller soundbars. And we also have something called soundbar wings. But the soundbar wings allow you to take like a Sonos sound, the tall Sonos soundbar, and reach it down below the TV. So you can easily put your soundbar above the TV, below the TV. You could also have it on the mantle if you've got the wires hidden and you like the way it looks. The mantle mount will, in most cases, if it's sitting on the mantle, it comes out off the wall to clear the mantle. I mean, you could even leave pictures on the mantle and other things on the mantle, depending on if you want your TV positioned between the ceiling and the mantle, because you like the way that looks, that'll give you room to put some things underneath it, and they'll all kind of clear those objects on the mantle as the mantle comes out and down.
Yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought of that. As the television comes out, it would actually come in front of the sound bar. So that probably wouldn't be best from an audio quality standpoint. You'd want to have that sound bar attached to the TV. Let's talk about something else. You mentioned putting the mount directly into the wall studs. There are so many different surfaces that fireplaces are, brick and rock and tile and even drywall with stud. What, are all these surfaces something you can put the mantle mount into, or are there some where it's just like, no, it doesn't work?
I would say all these surfaces are capable, but not in all cases, right? So I'll give you an example. The thing that's the easiest is drywall with 2x4s, right? As long as you, and our wall plates are fairly wide. So as long as you can find the studs in the wall, you mount those studs and you mount the wall plate of our mount into those studs, and you can hang a very heavy TV on the wall, even with the arm that comes down, because the arm is built to withstand that kind of weight. Stone is a little bit harder, but not impossible. Our mount comes with lag bolts and concrete anchors, which is what you need. But the not always is where, if someone's not clear on how their stone wall was built, it could be problematic. You know, some people just stack stone with mortar in between it, but that stone isn't actually anchored to the wall. If that wall of stone becomes its own kind of thing, and it needs to be anchored to the wall. So so if it is anchored to the wall, then stone isn't all that hard. A professional, you might want, if you're cutting, if some stone is jaggedy, and then you have to cut some of it so that the TV is flat, and so I would use a professional. But if you know what you're doing, the lag bolts that come with the mounts plus the concrete anchors can work. And you want your stone to be at least 3 to 4 inches deep. Some people have faux stone. They have little, 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch tiles that look like stone. And they still need to find a stud behind. There's usually, a wall behind that and a stud behind that. It's similar with glass. It's the same thing. You could install it on, if someone has kind of a glass tile, you've got to be careful in the way you drill into that tile so that you don't crack it. So a professional who does that is probably a good bet. But yeah, so I mean, you can put it in stone, you can put it on drywall, and a lot of different surfaces. It's all about leveraging the mount into something solid.
What about the myth that, gee, you don't want to put your TV over the fireplace because now you're going to have these ugly cables dangling everywhere? What about cable management?
That's a great question. Well, it is, it is true. If you're going to put your TV over the fireplace, you can, it depends on how you're using your TV. Some people are using their TV as their whole entertainment center, and they've got wiring in their wall that goes to their stereo in another location. If your TV is connected to the internet and you're listening to Pandora or Amazon Music and you're watching your movies, and it's getting to the point where you really don't need that. For some audiophiles would disagree, but you don't really need that whole rack of stereo equipment and DVD and Blu-ray. Some people will mount their cable box right behind the TV on the wall. But that said, we have a what we call a cable routing box. So they're two little boxes, and this part swivels. So you put it in the wall like it takes up the space of like an electrical switch, and then you attach conduit to either end. This is if your wall is open and you're able to do this. You put conduit on either end that you can get from a hardware store, and you route the cables through the back of the wall. Once you vote, people like to do this, especially if they're if they want their wires to be clean. And a lot of homes these days, if you're looking at a more modern home, they usually have a path or something like this built into the wall to route your cables to wherever your stereo equipment would be.
Okay, you mentioned earlier about the safety mechanism that you have in place. Just tell us a little bit about that. I mean, just in general, is putting a TV over a fireplace, does that damage the electronics? Is it that people think, oh, that's gonna destroy the life of my television if I put it over that? Tell us a little bit about how it works and how you can make sure to mitigate any harm that might come through your TV from overheating.
That's a great question. Yeah, we, like you said, we do notify you when it's too hot. But what we've learned is that just about all TVs, I can't speak for every single TV to an exact number, but all TVs are generally rated to handle 120 degrees of heat without any damage. So it really comes down to thinking about how hot does your fireplace get? And in some cases, how deep is your mantle? And this is just for when it's above the mantle, right? When it's above the mantle, forgetting whether you have a mantle mount or not, you want to measure, and you want to know that your TV is not more, that the heat getting to your TV is not more than 110 or 120 degrees. We go with 110 to be safe, right? So if you've got one of these humongous fireplaces and it's wood burning, and you're going to throw in a ton of wood and it throws off a ton of heat, may not be the best idea to put your TV over the fireplace. However, there's usually a mantle in the way, and the mantle blocks a lot of that heat from going to the TV. Years ago, people were very concerned with, smoke and soot affecting the wires. In the whole time I've been in this business, I haven't heard of one case where that's actually happened. I think it was more of a sales pitch at one point in time to get people not to do it, and not that people didn't believe it, but I've never actually seen that happen. Most of the newer homes these days have gas fireplaces, and they don't really put off a lot of heat at all. So they're almost kind of a non-issue because there's always a mantle over them, and there's some serious distance between the actual where the fire is coming out and the height of the mantle. And even with the mantle mount over a gas fireplace, I have to say, we don't recommend using a mantle mount with your fireplace on. I would say that there are a lot of cases where you could use the mantle mount with your fireplace on if it's a gas fireplace and you got the glass doors closed, and the mantle mount will tell you, you'll learn real quickly if it gets too hot for it or not.
Perfect. All right. Last area I want to touch on, you mentioned a couple of times more tricky installations where you might need a professional for glass tile or finding that proper mounting solution. How long does it typically take to install a mantle over a fireplace, or the mantle mount, I should say, over the fireplace? And when should a consumer know that, hey, I got to have a professional on this job?
50% of the consumers who buy a mantle mount on their own without going through an installer or a dealer who's going to install it for them end up installing it on their own. And those seem to be, and that's just our basic attach it to the wall mantle mount. We also have the ability to recess the mantle into the wall. And that then allows the TV to be super flush to the wall, like 1 3/4 inches close to the wall, because the arm folds up right into the wall, if that makes sense. I could show you a picture of it if you want. But so if you're going to do a recess box, definitely have a professional installer, because it requires cutting open the drywall, seeing where the studs are, framing in the box into the studs. We do give you some tools that allow you to do that and make it easier, but sometimes there's a stud right smack dab in the middle of the wall, and you literally have to cut that stud and put cross braces and then stick the mount there. So I wouldn't, unless you're super handy, I wouldn't attempt a recessed version of a mantle mount without a pro installer. That said, I've heard people install their own mantle mount in as little of an hour. They've got to be super handy and read the manual thoroughly before they start, which is really always a good idea with mantle mount, because there are a lot of measurements and you don't want to get it wrong. But I'd say that the average manual mount takes give or take 2 hours for the average person to do. At some point in time when you're putting the TV on or you're pulling the arm down, you definitely want 2 people to do that so that you can put the safety bolt in. That makes it so that the arm doesn't snap back up, because the manual mounts, the arms are pretty strong when they go up to hold the TV against the wall. So you pull that TV down, one person pulls it down and another person sticks the safety bolt in, and then it stays down so that you can hang the TV on it. And if the TV's heavy, you probably want 2 people to lift that TV. You don't need 2 people for the whole installation, but you definitely need it for those two parts. I'd say the motor, the one thing that I can say is I would always use a professional if you can afford it, or if you're not handy. And especially someone who's installed a mantle mount before would be ideal. And there are lots and lots of them out there at this point. You know, we're not a household name like Pepsi Cola, but I am surprised by how many people have heard of MantelMount and how many integrators there are that buy them from their distributors or buy them directly from us. So the nice thing is they've got some experience. So you don't end up putting a hole in the wall in the wrong place because you didn't read the manual on the measurements quite right. It goes a lot quicker with someone who knows what they're doing, for sure.
All right, some great advice in terms of dispelling some of the myths out there related to putting a TV over the fireplace. Lee Mark from MantelMount, thanks for joining CE Pro today.
It's been my pleasure. Nice seeing you, Jason.
To all of our integrator and manufacturer friends, be sure to submit your top products for CE Pro's Best Awards and great projects for CE Pro's Home of the Year Awards. Find more information and all the deadlines at cepro.com.